Hey everybody, my name is Dominic Campagna and I'm the president at Glue. I appreciate y'all taking this time with me today in this three-part series for our one-on-one guide to commerce analytics. We're going to break this down into three parts. Part one today, which we're going to be covering the build. Part two will be optimize. Hopefully join us by part three. That's going to be all around scaling. So let's jump into it. A few things to cover. This will be for businesses that are either B2B as well as D2C. When you think about your organization, you might fall into one bucket or all buckets. One thing that's really important is that we're working with a lot of customers that are online. They'll also be in store. I work with many brands and companies that might have a couple stores all the way to hundreds, really across the globe. And then lastly, marketplace. Your marketplace, you can think of this as Amazon, eBay, maybe Target. So here, what we're doing is just really laying the groundwork of organization structure and where they sell. So online, in-store, marketplace. From there, when you have this type of setup, there's a lot of technology that you're using across the board. When you look at a common tech stack that we see, there might be more depending on your situation and your technology that you're leveraging for specific use cases or setup. But you'll have things like Google Analytics for all your tracking and conversions. You'll see your different ad platforms, right? This could be TikTok, maybe a Bing. You're spending on Meta. You'll have Snapchat. So a number of different platforms here. You'll be leveraging another tool potentially, maybe like Gorgias. You think about your customer response and ticketing. You'll have another tool for Klaviyo, types of email campaigns and flows as well too. You might have returns, maybe something like Narbar or Loop that's involved. You're going to have your carts like Shopify POS for all that data that's being stored. If you look at loyalty, you might be looking at something like Yapo Loyalty as another piece of technology. From here, you might have also an ERP system like NetSuite. You might be leveraging Brightpearl, so there's quite a few as well. And then lastly, you might have some other technology that you're leveraging. One example could be Retail Next, which could be used for capturing like store traffic, and you're seeing strategies out, people coming in and what they're purchasing and what they're buying. But as you can see here, there's a lot of different pieces of technology that might be supporting your business in your day-to-day operation. And we're collecting a lot of different data points in these systems. And this makes it extremely difficult for businesses that we're working with. And what's difficult about it is trying to make sense of what's working, what's not working, what channels should we invest in, how can we tie this data together to get really the bigger picture, because you're getting limited information in a lot of these different technologies that you're using. And it's very common for organizations to be exporting data out of all these systems. They're trying to clean it, organize it, and structure it, and then start tying it together to get that bigger picture. A lot of customers I work with, they find themselves in some unique situations sometimes with executives or department leads where they're asking for really data that needs to be connected between these different systems. So they're trying to blend data between GA and Shopify to get a little more, granular with their information and to get better and more accurate insights, or even tying that to some of those ad platforms and spend. You might see other instances or use cases where you're taking your sales data that you're capturing, but maybe you need to subtract that from some of your returns data. Or maybe you also need to incorporate another tool that you add to your tech stack for shipping, like ShipStation or ShipHero that might be stored within here too. I think it's really important that you have a lot of data here that's being stored. It gets pretty granular, it's their own data sets. But where a lot of that gold is, or secrets, or ways to unlock revenue, or that data accuracy is all in blending, some of this data together, or most of it, to get to those insights. Where we're seeing commerce analytics really come into play here is setting up a different type of infrastructure and tech stack to support all this data. So down below, here's one way you can think about it. A lot of organizations are either building, their own integrations into a lot of these systems, or leveraging like a data pipeline. That data pipeline can then flow into data warehouse, where you're storing all of your information. The data warehouse is really important, right? A lot of companies are looking to do things like year-over-year conversions, week-over-week. You have a lot of historical information that's being stored that can be leveraged. You might be using something for data modeling like dbt. After you have your data pipeline, you have your data warehouse, you have your data modeling on top of that. you'll be using some type of business intelligence tool to pull all this information into it to do more advanced analytics. That's blending all this data together, custom calculations, joining your tables, getting everything in one place. And you might be using something like Looker or Tableau or Power BI. There's many different ones that you can choose from. Once you have this set up, you're going to be able to power a lot of different insights and metrics and your KPIs for all different departments. You might be looking at marketing, operations, your retail team, e-com, and finance. Having one unified data set is really going to power some great insights across the board. So it's what we'll be covering, different KPIs and metrics where everyone's tapping into that same information. Lastly, who runs this and who organizes it all? Well, it varies. It really depends on your setup and the size of your organization. Sometimes a lot of companies are fortunate where they have a data engineer, they have a head of data, they have a lot of business analysts and data analysts that support it. Whatever tech stack that you go with, you might also be able to get away with someone who works in like finance, or they have an analytical background where they can use tools that have more of a no code or drag and drop experience, but you can get to some pretty powerful insights. So here, what you're looking at is just one quick example of a common tech stack that can be set up for an organization that's working across and selling in many different places, and the infrastructure that you can use to really drive that executive overview, empowering data across your full business. Thank you for your time today, and click here to join us for part 2, where we're going to focus on optimizing.